These are the top 5 Redragon Mechanical Keyboards. If at any point during the video you want to check out any of these 5 keyboards, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links, but let's jump into it. Jumping into the number 5 spot, this is the Redragon K556, which is super budget friendly, coming in at only 60 bucks. Now this is a full-size keyboard, which means it's gonna have all of your function keys on top, it's gonna have your multimedia keys, it's gonna have your arrow keys, and it's even gonna have a full number pad. Now this has seriously good build quality, being made almost exclusively of metal. The top plate is a brushed metal. It looks very nice. It's all a black brushed metal. The sides are then all, again, metal, and even the bottom is all metal. So basically the top plate and all of this keyboard is metal except for the PCB and the switches and the keycaps. That's a whole lot of metal. That basically makes this thing super strong, super heavy, which is really good, and it makes this thing sound quite good. And the typing experience is also quite nice because it feels so solid. The overall design is pretty simple and minimal, but it looks clean and I like it. All right, now switches and stabilizers. You can get this thing with either reds or brown Altemu switches. The reds are gonna be more of a linear, quieter switch, where the browns are gonna be a little bit louder and have a nice tactile, satisfying bump in the middle. The stabilizers are actually quite good with no rattling going on, and they do come pre-lubed from the factory, and they do sound quite good actually. If you put a set of custom PBT keycaps on here, they would sound even better. Now this is hot swappable with other Altemu switches, but there are a few switches that will actually fit in Altemu slots, so definitely subscribe to my channel for more info on that. But let's hear the sound test. I have the reds, this is how it sounds. And that is how it sounds. Make sure to watch to the end of the video. I'm gonna be comparing all of these sound tests side by side at the end of the video, so look out for that. All right, now the RGB is per key lighting. You can have a bunch of different static colors, different modes, basically whatever you want. It's nice and bright, and it is quite vibrant. Now, as far as colors, you can only get this in one color, which is black. Let's move on to the keycaps. These keycaps, obviously, they're not PBT. We don't expect that at this price point, but they do have a very slight texture, and I do mean slight. These are almost basically smooth. Now the font is gamery, but it's not as bold, which I do like. Now, moving on to something else that's kind of cool with these keycaps, the sides are actually glossy. So the top is just a normal matte, but the sides are glossy, which kind of accentuates that RGB. So if you're someone that's into RGB, this is definitely a cool thing. All right, now connectivity is through a non-detachable USB cable that is rubber coated, but it does have gold plating on it, so that is good. Moving on to the number 4 spot, this is the Redragon K552 RGB Kumara, coming in at only 44 bucks, so it is super budget friendly. All right, now this is a TKO, which means a step smaller than a full-size keyboard, which means you're still gonna get all of your function keys, you're still gonna get your arrow keys and your multimedia keys, but you're gonna save space on that number pad. This is a great form factor and a lot of people's favorite form factor. But let's move on to the build quality. This thing is built really, really well. Obviously, it's not full metal like the K556. However, it's got a single plastic shelf for the bottom, which is quite nice and very rigid. The top metal deck is metal, like I said, and that makes this thing really rigid. There is basically no flex on this keyboard. They built this thing really well. All right, now you only have one switch option, which is an Altemu blue switch. This is a clicky and tactile switch. This is pretty loud and great for people if you're getting into mechanical keyboards. A lot of people that are getting into it want that super satisfying click and tactile bump. So if you're one of those people, you will like this. The stabilizers are good, but they're not quite as good as the K556. But again, we do expect that because this is a lower price point. But talking about the switches, this is hot swappable with other Altemu switches. So if you wanted to put other Altemu switches, but like I said before, there are other switches that will fit in Altemu slots. So if you don't like the clicky blues after a certain amount of time, you can switch those out. Definitely subscribe to my channel. I will be having a little modding video come out soon. But yeah, this is how it sounds with Altemu blues. And that is how it sounds. All right, now the RGB is actually surprisingly good. It has per key RGB, it's very bright, it's very vibrant, and honestly, you know, it's kind of crazy at only 44 bucks to have this, but the K552 has always been a go-to for that RGB. Again, you have statics, you have tons of different modes, reactive modes, whatever you want. All right, now for different colors, I'm pretty sure this used to come in white, but it seems like nowadays it only comes in black. So yeah, you can only get this thing in black, but not a problem. All right, now the keycaps feel nice. They have a very texturized, grippy texture, especially if you're into gaming, this is gonna be good for you. However, the font is pretty bold and gamery, so if you're not into that, you might want to look into getting some custom PBT keycaps to throw on this thing, but that's just another thing that you can do to easily mod it in the future. Connectivity is just like the K556 with a rubber-coated, non-detachable USB cable. Moving on to the number 3 spot, this is the Redragon K580 VATA coming in at 65 bucks. You do get a lot for your money. Now this is a full-size keyboard, so you get all your function keys, all your multimedia keys, all of those arrow keys, and you do get a full number pad. The build quality is good with a solid metal top plate. The bottom plate is plastic, and because of that, it does sound quite a bit more hollow than like the K556, the other full-size keyboard on this list. However, I still do think that this keyboard is a better keyboard than the K556. All right, switches and stabilizers, they let you pick between blue and brown switches. I personally have those browns and they feel quite nice on this keyboard. The stabilizers are lubed from the factory. They got no rattle and they sound quite good from the factory. I'm quite impressed. This is how it sounds with brown switches. And that is how it sounds. All right, now the RGB is absolutely awesome on this thing. It's got pretty bright RGB on the top with perky lighting, tons of modes, statics, really whatever you want, but it doesn't stop there. You actually have 2 strips on the left and the right side that can be controlled separately from the top per key RGB lighting. So in the dark, this thing looks absolutely awesome. If you're looking at your desk or if you're gaming on it, you got that glowing on the side and you got those strips you can directly look at. It just looks awesome with RGB. So if you're into RGB and also you want to match your setup, let's say you're going for an orange theme, you can change the whole keyboard to orange. It adds a lot to your desk, especially if you're into full-size keyboards. It's nice to have a lot of stuff on that full-size keyboard. Not to mention, this also has a volume wheel and a bunch of different macros, so if you like all that stuff, this thing is absolutely loaded. Now, the only color this comes in is black, but again, you have tons of customizability with that RGB, so not a big problem. Now, the keycaps are nice. They have a very slight texture and minimal secondary white printing, which I do like. However, the font is quite bold and gamery, so if you don't like that, look into getting some PBT custom keycaps. Connectivity is the same as the K552 with that rubber-coated USB non-detachable cable. Moving on to the number 2 spot, this is the Redragon K599 Deimos. This is one of my favorite Redragon keyboards, coming in at only 53 bucks. All right, now this is a 65% form factor, which basically means it's gonna be a lot of space saving. You save space on your function keys, most of your multimedia keys, that number pad, but you still get to keep your arrow keys because it's a 65% board. For a lot of you guys, this may be one of the best form factors out there if you don't want to go with that 60% form factor. Now, this is built quite well. It has a single plastic shell for the base, but it's quite nice plastic. On the top is a metal deck, but you start tapping on this thing and it's not hollow at all. Probably one of the least hollow Redragon keyboards they make, and that's probably due to this being a wireless keyboard and having a battery inside of it, so that's pretty cool. All right, now switches and stabilizers, you only have the option for one switch, which is an Altemu red switch, which I think is perfectly matched to this keyboard. Now, the stabilizers are a big thing with this. These are the best stabilizers on any Redragon keyboard, hands down. That's it. Fantastic stabilizers. There's no rattle, comes pre-lubed, quite nice if you put some PBT keycaps on here. I actually modded another K599 that I have, and with custom keycaps on it, just doing that, just putting custom keycaps on there, changes the stabilizers a whole ton, makes it sound really good. Now, this is also a hot swappable keyboard, so you can put other Altemu switches or other switches that are not Altemu switches in this. But again, check out my channel for that info. Let's hear the sound test. I have the reds. This is how it sounds. Now, the RGB is why this is not at the number 1 spot. It is not the brightest, and in fact, I think it's the dimmest keyboard on the list, and probably the dimmest Redragon keyboard I've ever gotten. It still has perky RGB. It still has tons of different modes, tons of different static colors. However, in the dark, you'll definitely be able to see it. but if it's kind of bright out, you're not gonna see it like the other Redragon keyboards on this list. And you probably can't mod it with something like putting keycaps. All right, now you can only get this in one color, which is black, but let's talk about the keycaps because the keycaps are, the texture is good. I like the feeling. However, it has this ugly white secondary printing. I don't like it at all, and I don't really like the font either. However, again, like I said, I modded it with some cheap, like $20 PBT keycaps, made this thing so much better. So if you're gonna get this thing, definitely make sure that you buy some PBT keycaps. However, connectivity is absolutely awesome. You can plug this in with a detachable USB-C cable, or the big thing is you can use this wirelessly with a 2.4 gigahertz USB dongle, which is absolutely awesome if you are gonna be gaming. All right, now moving on to the next keyboard, we're gonna do an honorable mention before we get to the #1 spot, and that is the Redragon K630 Dragonborn. This thing is super budget friendly, coming in at only $47 as of filming. And has a 60% form factor, although it is a quite hollow sounding keyboard. For switches, you have the option between red, brown, or blue switches. The stabilizers do come pre-lubed and they do feel quite nice, but again, typing on this sounds a little bit hollow because there's nothing inside of that case absorbing the sound. However, it is hot swappable, and this is how it sounds with red switches. And that is how it sounds. However, RGB is really good with full perky RGB lighting, tons of modes, tons of everything, but super, super bright, which is awesome. You can get this in black or white, and the keycaps are nice and minimal, and I do like the keycaps that come stock on this. However, connectivity isn't great. It uses a detachable USB-C cable, but it's on the left side, which I don't like, and not the left back, it's on the left side. But if you like this keyboard and you're on the fence, I would go with the #1 spot because that thing is just so much better for just a little bit more money. And the #1 spot is the Redragon K530 Draconic, coming in at only $57. This is an amazing value and the best Redragon keyboard out there. Now, this is a 60% form factor, probably the most popular form factor out there today. If you're into smaller keyboards or you want to save space on your desk, this is absolutely great for that. Build quality is solid with a plastic shell for the bottom and a metal deck on top. However, again, this is a wireless keyboard, and because of that, it does not sound very hollow at all, which is awesome. And it's also quite heavy. Switches and stabilizers, you have choice between red, brown, or blue switches. I have keyboards with both the red and the brown switches. I would recommend probably the reds, but if you're into browns, definitely get those. The stabilizers are lubed from the factory and are just a tiny bit worse than the K599 Deimos, although these are still quite good for this price point, and they would definitely sound a whole lot better if you modded them with some PBT keycaps. This is hot swappable with other Altemus and other switches that will fit in Altemu slots, and this is what it sounds like with the red switches. And that is how it sounds. All right, now RGB is the best out of any Redragon keyboard that they have ever made. It is incredibly bright, definitely the brightest that Redragon has ever made. It's super vibrant. Again, you have perky RGB lighting, tons of different modes, tons of different static colors, reactive modes, anything you want. Now, if you did want to mod this with some pudding keycaps and get that shine through, this is a keyboard you could definitely do that with. Now, as far as colors, you do have the option to get this in either black or white, which I'm super happy about. Now, the keycaps are nice and have a more minimal font to them, which I really do like. And it also has side printing on the side of the keycaps, so it kind of cleans up the look, and I do prefer that. All right, now connectivity, you can either use this with a USB-C detachable cable, or you can use this through Bluetooth with 3 different devices that can be connected at once. Now, the cool thing about this is the USB-C is on the left side, which doesn't bother me because this is a wireless keyboard. However, the on and off switch is also on the left, so you don't have to pick up your keyboard to turn it on or off, as well as those 3 different switches between 3 different devices is also on that left side, so that is really great, and I know you guys like that. But yeah, overall, I think this is the best Redragon keyboard you can buy today. But again, if you want to check out any of the 5 Redragon keyboards, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links. I do got you guys, but any of these keyboards would be absolutely fantastic, and these are definitely the best 5 Redragon keyboards that they make. But as I promised, here is a side-by-side comparison of all of the sound tests in this video. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video and it helped you out, help me out and throw a like below. And if you enjoy other content like this, mechanical keyboards or top 5, top 10 tech videos, I do a ton of those. So please consider subscribing below. But this was a super tech review, and I'll see you guys in the next video.